Hello and welcome back to Chasing Psychological Safety. We are again speaking about emotions and the human work today. Yesterday's article was calling it a crisis of EQ. I absolutely stand by that term. I feel like we are all in a place where we need to do a lot better when it comes to emotions, full stop. And that means all of us. It means all of us, irrespective of industry, irrespective of type of relationship. Even you'll find that the need for EQ doesn't only exist in the context we're speaking about now, which is the professional one, but also in the realm of our friendships, of our family, of our relationships with our children. Just comprehending what your emotions are and what the emotions of the person in front of you or the people you're interacting with are is invaluable and is work that is now long overdue. The reason it is overdue is because we have had these horrible times that have mandatorily put us in touch with our humanity, whether we liked it or not, whether we were prepared for it or not. We have had a lot of feelings. We are having a lot of feelings as we go. And the assumption that we can put a lid on them and forget they're happening or hope that they go away if we just don't examine them is bankrupt. And it's not going to happen until such a time that we can put the names on them, check ourselves, understand them, understand how to react to them, and also then comprehend how others are feeling. We're not going to be advancing this conversation. Like we said many times before, there have been wins during the pandemic. We are going to squander them if we don't find ways to do the human work. And this is one of the most fundamental parts of the human work, which is becoming a lot more intelligent when it comes to our emotions.
Absolutely. And the steps to get there are a little bit more complicated or a little bit more real than just rolling out courses on emotional intelligence. What is it, etc. That might get you so far, might get you to the stage of raising awareness. What would be more useful would be really emphasizing at an organizational level and working with your people across your whole organization on the importance of emotional intelligence, the benefits of being able to understand what your emotions are, first of all at a high level, but then breaking those down into the more specific emotions that people are experiencing. That will help you get buy-in, get people's awareness raised, but then we need to do the do with regards to emotional intelligence. So in order for people across your organization and across your teams to be able to understand their own emotions and relate to the emotions of others, to help them have much better conversations, interactions, do their work better together through that emotional understanding, which also breaks down conflict and smooths the way for much more collaborative conversations, is really to give the teams the tools to be able to do that work themselves. So, you know, we want teams to be having conversations about emotions, their own emotions, what those emotions actually are, and what each other's emotions are. You can do that. There are all sorts of apps out there that you can provide to teams. There's all sorts of tools and exercises that you can give to teams, but it's really creating the permission and the space and giving them the permission to create that space and hold that space to have those conversations regularly with each other. You know, a lot of the human work and the behavioral work that can then come once you've got higher EQ in your organization does come from having open conversations, and you need psychological safety for that, of course. But unless you create the space for those conversations on EQ, the rest of the behavioral change that you need is unlikely to flow.
Very, very true. And it is such a complex topic, right? We have never left it out. If any of you have observed our journey so far, we have spent a lot of time trying to find ways to collectively raise the soft skills level, the EQ level of the team. And initially we were building this towards team leaders. That was obviously the wrong way to go. Everybody in the team needs to raise their EQ one way or another. The fundamental steps to start raising your EQ are more of a theoretical blocker. There isn't a lot of work to be done. There isn't a lot of studying to be done. There's very little that needs to be learned. But having the goodwill to do that learning and actually take in those names, those words, it is fundamental. And once you've done that, setting aside the time to make it into a habit where you check yourself religiously is also fundamental and is needed. And it's something that as consummate professionals, we now owe to our enterprises, because we've went through life believing that we are being paid for our delivery work, for our everyday work, for our tasks, for our logistical abilities, for our strategic thoughts. And what we are being called to do these days is none of that. A lot more of our workday is about the way we navigate interactions with others, how we have our one-on-ones, how we pair program, how we end up having dojos or collaborative meetings, how we end up coming together with other humans. And it is exactly that we have no training and no ability to do. And it starts with understanding what kind of emotions do we go through and what do they go through. And lastly, and the bigger point to this is, and you can maybe explore this more, but it's very common sense, which is we are not going to be able to continue this conversation about empathy and compassion, which we are doing anyways over LinkedIn and every other enterprise, and make compassionate leadership a corporate goal when we haven't bothered to do the first steps, where raising the emotional intelligence of the entire enterprise is the corporate goal we should be looking for. So as you guys know, we are very bullish about the fact that there's human debt in every organization, and we are growing it by having these human topics only scratched on or only talked about in the corners again. We can't afford that. We need to start lowering it, and to do that, go back to the drawing board in terms of what are the basic emotions and what are some of the nuances within them. When do I feel them? When do others feel them? How do we talk about them together? And just kind of take it from there. So make raising your EQ one of your corporate goals. If you really want to help your people, there's so much that needs doing between that and rethinking leadership, and most importantly, putting ways to measure this and hold the space. Things like our tool, things like anywhere else where you feel like it's giving you enough data and enough support to be having these conversations. That's what you need, and you need it urgently. All of these other conversations that are a little course here and there, some L&D expenditure, and then maybe a little bit of an engagement NPS score are just silly, and we just don't have the time for those things anymore. Have a lovely week, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.